Jimmy G isn't super flashy, thrilling, or must-see TV when he goes under center for the 49ers. But he is one thing, steady. He's shown the ability to take teams deep into the playoffs, and he won't lose you the game. Now, the question after the Jekyll and Hyde start for the 49ers, who looked anemic in their 11-10 loss to the Broncos last week, then last night looked like a team that knows their identity and plays to it after once again beating the Rams 24-9, is who is the long-term answer at the quarterback position. Now, with Trey Lance out because of injury, the quarterback for this year is obviously Jimmy G. But should he be the long-term answer? I think he should. Shanahan has shown us who he wants to be, a downhill running team that uses that to open up the passing game at all three levels and gets after you on defense and special teams. The 49ers don't need a Lamar Jackson at quarterback in Shanahan's system. They need someone who's going to make good decisions, get them out of bad plays pre-snap, and be able to make some of the throws in the short, intermediate, and vertical passing game when called upon. Long story short, they need a steady hand at quarterback, and Jimmy Garoppolo is just that. Trey Lance getting hurt is unfortunate, but with the way the team is constructed right now, even when he comes back, is he the best fit to run this style of offense? I think he could actually become a huge trade value piece for the 49ers to shore up other spots or add to the line of scrimmage. Lance is a good player, but he's not the right fit to lead this team in this system. Also, Garoppolo absolutely owns the Rams. The win last night moves him to 7-0 all-time against the NFC West foe, and there are more showdowns on the horizon. The way Jimmy G operated the offense last night, especially on third down early, was masterful. He didn't make the big mistake and got the ball to playmakers in space like Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Juwan Jennings. He also has great rapport with tight end George Kittle, who just got back, had a couple nice grabs last night, and a near touchdown. Now, some will say that Lance hasn't had enough time to show what he can do, and while that may be true, you do know what you have with Jimmy G, and it looks like a team who knows who they are when he's under center. Now, he isn't going to win the MVP, but he is going to help you win games. And with a defense like they have and a coach that has proven his ability to not only move or advance in the playoffs, but having a Super Bowl champion at the quarterback at the helm when he gets there, the biggest games are going to be something that is worth their weight in gold with that experience at the head coach and quarterback position. So Jimmy G has gone from backup to backup, and it needs to stay that way. I bring in David Cohn and Blaine Crane. And look, you know, again, it's unfortunate for Trey Lance, but when you look at the way Shanahan calls plays, and you look at what wins in the playoffs, while Trey Lance has shown you his ability to run and extend plays outside the pocket, Jimmy G is a ball control style. Game manager is a terrible term. I'm not going to use it. Every quarterback should be a game manager. But Jimmy Garoppolo just seems like a better fit for what Shanahan wants to do. I know Elijah Mitchell's out, with an injury, but Jeff Wilson Jr. did a really good job last night. They could put Deebo in the backfield. You got Kyle Juszczyk too. I just feel like he's a better fit, Cone, watching him run this offense, especially when they're cooking.
Call me a game manager all day if I can bang the slant route like that.
Yeah, I love
he
that
was
sentence.
eating. He was eating. They were angle routing the Rams to death last night. And I was surprised that with Aaron Donald, who I think may be the best player in professional football, with their inability to really get to Jimmy Garoppolo and affect him in any way, I thought, it was really the best I'd seen them, which surprises me why they lost to, who'd they lose to already? The Bears this season, the Broncos this season already. In that game, they only put up 10
Weather
points.
was horrible in that game against the Bears,
weather, the elements were in full force that game. And then I guess with the Bears, that was Trey Lance was starting that game. But Jimmy Garoppolo looked as good as I've seen him last night. I mean, the Rams looked disheveled. It was a great win for the 49ers. And I don't know, Jake, if he's the long-term answer, because we heard for years in New England, this was the heir apparent to Tom Brady. And when I look at him, I'm like, this guy doesn't look like the heir apparent to Tom Brady to me. But when you see him play an efficient football game last night with what Kyle Shanahan wants to do on offense, with that kind of defense, that defense is elite. Like, this guy can take you to the playoffs. Can he win a Super Bowl? I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet, but they can make a deep playoff run. And you do that enough times, you're bound to win one.
Yeah.
Good.
They made it that far in the playoffs with Jimmy G not throwing a touchdown. That's how good this team is surrounding him. Including, first of all, Fred Warner is one of the best, if not the best, middle linebacker in the NFL. That offense looked like that without what? Trent Williams, the best tackle in the NFL.
And then the backup tackle got hurt. They had to put the third stringer in there. Actually did a pretty good job.
Did a pretty good job. But Jimmy G's is a steady hand, and he's been a steady hand. I've never been behind the Trey Lance experiment. I didn't think the kid went through progressions good enough. or threw the ball well enough to take you where you need to go in a Kyle Shanahan offense. And I know it's great to have a mobile quarterback. I know it helps the offense because the defense has to account for another guy. But Jimmy G has always been this guy for what was the Patriots, the 49ers. He comes in and gets the job done. I mean, if you can come in and play quarterback like that and also look like that, which is probably one of the best looking guys in the NFL, you need to start. It's a face. It's a face.
I don't think Jimmy G has to go on Tinder to find a date. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
I will say this. I thought the game plan last night with the Rams defensive line and Aaron Donald, they were getting the ball out quick. They were effective enough in the run game. Jeff Wilson Jr. Did a really good job, ended up with that big touchdown run early, but they were able to get enough in the run where it was a threat. But if you look at the passing game, there wasn't a lot of passes downfield last night for the Niners. What were they doing? Slants, quick game, screen game, getting the ball to Ayuk out there quick. And they were staying ahead of the chains. But if you look early, too, they were getting in third and manageable, right? Now, that first drive, they converted, I think, a 3rd and 8 and a 3rd and 9, one to Juwan Jennings across the middle. But Jimmy G wasn't holding the ball. He realized what they were going against up front. But I think Shanahan does such a good job of game planning and understanding who they are. When the Niners are the best, they're the best version of themselves. They don't have to rely on huge plays offensively. They need to be good enough and not make the mistakes. It's kind of like watching Kentucky or some of these other teams playing college football. They just kind of wait you out.
Yeah.
They're going to make you make the mistake. And guess when the mistake happened last night? The pick six there at the end to help them pull away. They're not going to go out there and score 45 points outside of scoring maybe a couple defensive touchdowns and a special team touchdown. But Jimmy G, they're going to be methodical. They're going to be balanced. They're not going to turn the ball over. When they get into the red zone, they're at least going to get a field goal, and they have a decent run game, or the run game is good enough even without Elijah Mitchell. Now you get George Kittle back, a guy that's a security blanket for Jimmy Garoppolo, which we've seen. But that, to me, looked more in the vein of the Niners. While Trey Lance does have a high ceiling to make a big play every now and then, and he can scramble and run and threaten you in different ways than Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think Trey Lance goes out there and plays as clean of a game as Jimmy G did last night. And it's not always about making the big play. It's about making the smart play. How many times last night did you see Jimmy Garoppolo try and fit a ball into a window that he shouldn't have? You saw him miss a couple passes. You saw Stafford miss a couple passes. That happens. But Jimmy G was not going to make the mistake that lost you that game. He was going to make the right decision. And it's not just during the play. It's pre-snap. They were doing a good job of when the Rams did blitz. And it was actually interesting watching D'Amico Ryans and the 49ers blitz last night, which they don't do a lot of. But when the Rams would bring pressure, they were able to get the ball out, make good decisions, and not turn the ball over. And that is 49ers football with Mike Shanahan.
The only time I thought he put the ball in harm's way was the slant route to Deebo Samuel that he took off for 57 yards and scored the touchdown.
And Darion Kendrick, who was at Georgia in 2021, went for the pick.
He broke for that on the pick and almost had it, but you got your playmaker, the ball in space. It reminded me a lot of watching Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, the way that they short game you to death. The only difference being that Aaron Rodgers will short game you for a quarter, and then he's taking deep shots and he's putting those on a saucer plate and hitting them. But Jimmy Garoppolo can do that as well, and it makes sense. Look, Kyle Shanahan and LaFleur and Sean McVay are all from the same coaching tree, so I understand that. My question for you guys is, and I think a lot of 49ers fans are thinking this, we know what the floor is, right? And if the floor for a quarterback with that sort of defense is to get you to NFC championship games, and that's pretty good. But the 49ers are a proud organization. They want to win Super Bowls. So if the thinking was, well, the floor with someone like Trey Lance may be lower, but the ceiling could be as high as being Super Bowl champions, do you think that that's worth the risk of sticking with Trey Lance when he comes back?
Well, if you didn't have the skill players you had, then yes. If you didn't have Deebo Samuel, if you didn't, I'll even throw Juwan Jennings in there. If you didn't have George Kittle, if you didn't have Ayuk, if you didn't have guys that could threaten you outside and can hit the big play, then I think you need a quarterback like Trey Lance that can scramble around and find a way. Kind of like the Bears with Justin Fields. Justin Fields finds ways to make big plays with his legs, and they have to have that. They can't have a guy that just drops back there and tries to find Darnell Mooney the whole game. The Cardinals as well, until they at least get D-Hop back.
Yeah.
But when you have Deebo Samuel, even when you have Jeff Wilson Jr. and George Kittle and Ayuk and Juwan Jennings and the guys they have, you can play that style game with that defense. It is a ball control offense that can hit big plays from short to long. You'll see some vertical threats from the passing game. You have to respect it when Deebo and those guys are out there and they can, obviously run deep and make a play. But also you can line Deebo Samuel up in the backfield. You have options. So if they didn't have as many options and didn't have home run threats, then yes, I think the Trey Lance experience and taking a chance with him to see if he can make a big play is worth it. But since they don't, and they've shown you they can win this way by playing good defense, playing good special teams, even though Robbie Gould missed that big field goal there at the end to put them up 2 scores. They got away with it because they had the pick 6 on defense. But no, that's kind of the way I look at it, and I think that's the way Shanahan and them are going to look at it. Because let's just say, let's say that the 49ers win their division this year, beat out the Rams, beat out the Cardinals in their division. How do you not play Jimmy G going forward, a guy that did win 2 Super Bowls with the Patriots? I know he was the backup, but there were times where Jimmy G came in and kept that ship right while Tom Brady was hurt or there was something going on. And then obviously Tom Brady moves on. But I like the makeup, and that just looked like a complete football game last night from that team. You didn't have turnovers. I know they fumbled on the kick return, but they got it back, and that's out of Jimmy G's control. But they won that game like they looked like they game planned how to win that game. All right, everybody, do me a favor right now. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. And we're dropping content all the time. I appreciate you guys. We're growing like a weed. So make sure you tell everybody about us. And we're going to keep bringing you sports without the political narratives, just how you like it.